Okay, so this is my tutorial on arm swinging VR movement but with collision. It has been a while since the last demo, and I've thought of a new way of handling collision stuff in Unreal, but this is my way of showing how to work it. All the theory I had in the last video still applies, but I've just now put it into a plugin, so you just drag in the nodes and you can execute all the code, do all that logic, and everything should run fine. So, we're going to start off here. I already have a zip I'm going to use later on of all the plugins stuff you'll need to do, but I'm going to show you here a step-by-step guide of what to do for Blueprint. So first of all, we're going to create a new project. I'm going to use Blueprint and Virtual Reality. Put it wherever you like, it doesn't really matter, and I'm going to call it VR Test for now. So you can add style content if you want, but I'm not going to have any. Just going to try and keep it nice and clean. So you got to wait for this to start up. Okay, so now the engine started up. This is on the base virtual reality template. I'm going to change out the content so it'll be a bit easier to manage with. So first things first, we are going to want to change map to the motion controller map. So motion controller map. Just because this is the only map that comes with base VR template that shows off motion controls. And this camera here in the scene is the pawn that it will possess by default, and it's because this is set to player 0 on auto possess player. And we are going to create our own one now. So we're going to create our own blueprint character. So blueprint. So first thing to do is to right click to bring up this menu, go to blueprint class, and select character. So I'm going to call it BP _ VR character, and I'm going to open that up. So the reason why, so basically when we pick character, we've now inherited all the details from the character, and the main thing we want from this is the character movement component, which can't be added through Blueprint, but it can be done through Unreal C++. So I'm going to also go back to the content browser, and I'm going to open up the motion controller pawn. So there are a couple of things in here it does by default that are handy, such as grabbing items, teleportation, and that's about it. And it sets floor level if you're on PS4 or Steam VR or Oculus. So I'm going to create this as a template for Oculus or Vive. So there's going to be the only thing I'm going to copy from this blueprint is this section here. So from begin play, you want to go check for the inside of sequence and then go down to then 1. So what this is doing is it's spawning the left and right controller and then setting them as one of our variables. So what I'm going to do here, so I'm going to go and select all of this, do copy, go back over to R, new blueprint, and paste it in. Undo that, try and give it a bit more space. We don't need to begin overlap. We are going to use tick, and we are going to use begin play. So begin play, we are going to set on new controllers and drag out this pin onto the reroute node there. So now that's set up, we need to now create these left controller and right controller variables. So Unreal has a new handy function. You just go right click and then create variable. So we're done. It creates to the variable type we need, and that is all good. So I'm going to now go through into the viewport, and there's a couple things we're going to need to do. So we need to create a VR holder and a VR origin. So these are both going to be scene components. So we search scene component. So I'll go back to the beginning. We hit add component, and we search scene component. There we go. I'm going to call this VR holder. So I'm going to put this at -88 So the reason why I got it at -88 is because it's the very bottom point of this capsule component. And as we can see here, the half height here is 88. So I'm just doing the negative value of that half height. So if you wanted to make a character taller or shorter using this, so let's say 250 height, you would want to have this bit minus 250, so it's always on the bottom. So let's go put it back to 88 as default, and I will move it back to -88. Now, the next thing to do is start creating the play space. So we need to create another scene component. I'm going to call this VR Origin. And that's good. So I'm going to go back over to the motion control component and show you here. So what they have here is a very sort of similar layout. So they have a default scene route, a VR Origin, so that's the play space sort of center, and then the camera on top. So we're going to do a very similar thing. So here we're going to have VR Origin. We're going to add our camera on and make sure we have lock to HMD ticked, because then that will follow the camera tracking data it gets. And yep, it reads VR Origin fine because it has the exact same name. But if you were changing the names of VR Origin to something else, you need to set these variables here to be the parents, so these controllers know where to be attached to. Okay, so now that's that part set up. Now we are going to add the plugin in. So for safety's sake and to make things work more smoothly, I'm going to close down the editor and save it all. Of course, save first, then close. And I'm going to take the contents of this plugin. So if I'm going to copy it from here, and I'm going to go into my Unreal documents. So this is where my projects are stored. So here we have VR test. And then here I'm going to create a plugins folder. So to create a new folder, capital P, and then the rest is lowercase, so plugins. And then paste the Armswinger plugin in here. And as we see, here's Armswinger and all the content it has inside. So I'm going to go back out to the zip. I'm going to go to extract all. There we are, extract. So now we have Armswinger plugin, but what we need to do is copy the insides, go back, paste it out here, because we don't need that folder. So just so we have Armswinger and then all the source files, and these are the C++ files I've created for all the Armswinger movement stuff you need to use. So now I'm going to launch back up the project, so VR test. And that should open up fine, make sure that's all right. But yeah, you need to have that plugins folder. So yeah, now we can tell the plugins folder has correctly gone in, because we now have these C++ classes and Armswinger content. You might only see these if you have the right view enabled, so you can check that by going to View Options and then Show Plugin Content. So if you don't have Show Plugin Content shown, then you won't see it. So if you don't want to see it, it's not there. You don't have to see it. So let me go open up our Blueprint VR character again. So now there's the second part. So we now have these two new components. We have Armswinger component and VR movement component. I'll go through both of them. So Armswinger first. So this is what handles all of the arm-swinging motion. But both of these components we need to set up first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag another pin off here. Have a reroute node to make it nice and clean. So basically, after we've created our two controllers, we're going to set up these components now. So I'm going to drag Armswinger off and get it. And I think I called it setup, or I called it Armswinger set controllers. There we go. So what this is doing, here we are going to tell where the motion controller components are of the controllers. So we go over to here where we spawn them. So we are spawning BP motion controller. So if we go over and open BP motion controller, here we are. These are all the components on this blueprint. And we have this motion controller component. So this is what is looking to track the controller and it's moving to location, rotation. So that's what we need to track and look after, or to watch. So we need to get our left controller, and then get the motion controller components on that. Here we go, default, get motion controller. Excellent. Oops, daisies, try and drag that off because it's a long get, say. Left controller. Do the exact same thing, but now for the right controller. So right controller, do get. And then get motion controller. Here we are. And then go drag that on. So that's the Armswinger bit set up. Now we need to get our next component, which is the VR movement component. So VR movement, here we are. So drag it on like before. And I think it's called setup for this one. Yes, setup. So what this is doing is this is the component we're telling where our VR origin is and where our character movement is. So here we go. So setup. I'm get hold of the character movement, plug it in there, all good, and get hold of our VR origin and plug it in there. That's all good. So now the next thing we need to do is on the tick. So tick, if you don't know, works on every frame. So this pin will get executed every single frame the game will render while this component is active. So let me get rid of this so it's less things in the way. Okay, so drag out to use it. And now we need to calculate our Armswinger. So go to Armswinger, get, and then calculate Armswinger movement. So this is translating, this is getting our speed we're swinging at, calculating how far the controllers have moved, because it's stored the motion controller components we passed at the start. So it's calculating how far they've moved in the last frames to figure out how much to move the player this frame. And it gives us this output vector. So that's our directional vector we're going in with our magnitude as well. So how far we're going to move. Then the next part is to do with VR movement. So this part is to do with tracking where the player's heads move. So we're always, basically what we're trying to do is we're always trying to move this VR origin so the camera is always in the center of the blueprint. So basically the camera will always be inside the capsule. So this is our way of stopping any player trying to poke their head through a wall or anything, or trying to walk through a wall. So we don't have anything like, if you want to go for different methods, for example, when you walk through a wall, the whole camera fades to black, and when you walk out, it fades back into the game view again. You're going to have to do your own stuff, but you can override and change it through this function I'm going to call here. So from here, we need to call add camera movement. So here we are, but now I need to pass in where the location of the headset is. And the location of the headset is going to be the camera, and then get relative location. So the relative location is the location relative to its parent object. So, for example, if the player moves through the world, but they don't actually move the camera, they don't actually move their headset, then the relative location will stay the same because they never actually moved the headset. But if they've walked through the world but haven't moved their head, then the relative will stay the same, but the world will change, if that makes any sense. So now the next thing we need to do is use this return value we get off the Armswinger movement and use that to move. So we need to call add input vector, and this is on the character movement. So the reason why we're using the character movement is because it handles all of our collisions and collision sort of side. So we don't need to check if we're going to walk into a wall, stop that, if we can, how far we move, and also velocity, and also how fast we can move. But we can always change all the variables we have inside here and change all this different stuff. So I think this works a lot better because there's a lot of stuff already using the character movement components, rather than creating our own custom stuff, especially just for VR. For this, it's just a nice simple way of getting it working out of the box. So we're going to take our Armswinger movement and plug it into our world vector. So we've got a couple of variables you might want to tinker with and change. So we've got starting swing sensitivity. So starting swing sensitivity is related to sort of like a movement speed. So if you want to increase the overall value that this calculate Armswinger movement vector function is outputting, you can increase or decrease that depending how you want to change it. So single arm swing sensitivity is if someone's pressing the button and swinging with one arm, and dual arm swinging sensitivity is if both the controllers are pressing the arm swinging button and they're moving their arms. So you can change that how you like or how you want to do your game or application. There aren't really any settings or things to tweak with the VR movement. That's all down to your decision. So if you think your max speed you're moving at is too fast or too slow, the thing you're going to need to change is max walk speed. So we search here, max walk speed. So 600, if you want to increase that or decrease that, that's the value you want to change. If you think the arm swinging is too sensitive, like if the amount of movement you need to do is too little and you want to be able to, the player to put more effort into their swings, then you want to decrease the starting swing sensitivity. So those are the values that you need to know. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is actually get the input working. So since we've been using the VR template, it's a couple of things we already get. So, for example, we already get a couple inputs set. So if we go to projects, let me start again. Go to File, Edit, Project Settings. You can then go down to Engine, Input, and then you have these action mappings. You can have axis mappings, but we're not going to use any of them. We're only going to use the action mappings. So if you want to create one, you click the plus button, and you can set all the different motion controller stuff you want to do. But we're going to get rid of that, so we're going to click the X. So what we're going to do, since in our blueprint VR character, we don't have any teleporting so far, we're going to use the teleport right and teleport left action mappings. So these are based on the thumbsticks or the face buttons. So here we are going to get hold of teleport right, and if I right click again, teleport left. There we go. So we have when it's pressed and when it's released. So the next thing we need to do is hook on from the Armswinger again. So get that. And then if we search get left, so get armswing left and get armswing right are two variables. These are booleans. But we're not going to get them. I don't know why I said get. We're going to set them. So set right. So this is a teleport right. We are going to, when the button is pressed, we want to make sure armswing right is set to true. And I'm going to click on this and do Control W, duplicate it. And when we release it, we want to make sure it's false. But make sure you draw onto the target pin. We're going to do the same thing again. Duplicate. Do set arm swing left. I'm going to set it when true and make it false when we release. So setting it all up, plugging the pins in, true when pressed, and make sure it's released so it's false. So there we go. That should be everything. So we haven't, if you want to do grabbing, you make sure you copy the grab from this, the BP motion controller blueprint. The grabbing is, where is it? So there's rumbling controls, impact, other static meshes, the hand update animations. I think I've gone past it several times. Oh wait, this is the motion controller. It isn't handled in here. It's handled in the motion controller pawn. Sorry, that's my fault. So inside motion controller pawn, here we have handle input. So you want to recreate this grab left, grab right. Recreate that yourself. And these functions That left, it calls in the left controller, right controller. It's fine. Okay, so back over to this. Now, so the final thing we need to do before we start testing it is go back into motion controller map, save everything we've done, and we've got this camera here that we're going to need to change. So VR pawn, and we're setting auto possess player to 0. We need to delete that and put in our new one. So our BP VR character, there it is. And so set pawn, make sure auto possess is to 0. So what I did was use a search bar here, type pawn, and then auto possess player to 0. Okay, so now we should have a working VR character, and I'm going to go off and test it. Okay, so once all your VR is set up, the last thing you need to do is hit this down arrow and make sure you hit VR preview, and this will boot it up into VR mode. So I'm just going to stick my headset down now. So I've got my right controller and my left controller. So it's going to teleport on the right controllers, which is using the touchpad. I'm going to press down the touchpad on the left controller, and I move my hand and I move around. On the right controller, press it down, move it around. All works right. I put down both. I can move around. It's all to do with the direction you point your controllers in. That's the way it goes. I'm having issues with my tracking in my room. So I can face one way and move an entire different direction. And the part you guys have been following me here for is the collision. So I can walk into my head into here. I can also sprint and try and go through the wall, and there is nothing. So that's all based on the character movement component, and that has a bunch of other things like jumping and swimming, slopes, all the handling and different stuff. That's all in there. So that's the end from the tutorial, and I hope you managed to get the same outcome that I have. It's all working, it's all going fine. If there's any issues, message me in the comments, and I will try and get back to you and help you out as much as I can. Alright, thank you very much for watching. That's the end of it now.